Hi, welcome to Punchline's Talks. My name is Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts to talk about the business news, talk about their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. I'd like to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazlewoods Accountants and Business Advisors, and also provide me with this lovely coffee every time I come on the show as well. Anyway, let me introduce you to the panel. We've got Gary Jones, chairman and founder of Glevum Windows, turnover around £10 million, employs 80 odd staff. The company is split into two different divisions, Glevum Windows and the new build side. We've got Sarah Stephen Lewis. She's assistant principal of apprenticeships and employee engagement at South Gloucestershire Stroud College. They have over 1,000 staff and over 6 sites. We've got Adam Shearing, associate director, business solutions at Hazlewoods Accountants and Business Advisors. They employ over 485 staff, and funny enough, they have over 200 apprenticeships, which, as it's National Apprenticeship Week, is quite apt that you're on here as well, Adam. Anyway, thank you all for joining the show. I'm just quickly going to share my screen. Courtesy of the BBC. Let's go through the headings. The Daily Telegraph, RAB, high standards don't make you a bully. The Sun, Nicola Copps search C. The Guardian, blessings for same-sex couples from C&E approval. The Times, British missiles may hit Crimea. The Metro, they need your help now. The Daily Mail, when will the Treasury get the message over tax? The Financial Times, Pelzer calls off battle with Disney over claiming objectives met in shake-up. Over 7,000 jobs may go at Disney. The Daily Express, greedy banks blasted over savings rates. The Mirror, Bill's hike is national act of harm. And the Daily Star, vote chuckle. Well, we could all do a bit of that, and hopefully, maybe we might have a chuckle this morning on the national news as well. Anyway, thank you all for joining us this morning. I'll go straight over to you, Adam. What have you picked out in the papers, please?
Well, perhaps not surprisingly, I've gone with the tax story to start with. So this is particularly driven by AstraZeneca. So they were due to invest £330 million in a new hub in the UK. The UK government obviously keen to make that happen, offered them a 50 million incentive to do so. However, it appears that they've changed their minds and decided to invest in Ireland. And the reason given for that is I guess the huge differences in corporation tax rate. The UK is set to go to 25%, Ireland is at 15%. So even with that £50 million incentive, AstraZeneca still feel that the disparity in tax rates is so vast that they're better off investing in Ireland. And so that's kind of led to some calls for a few people really actually putting pressure on Jeremy Hunt to look at that tax rate, particularly with the budget, because many see it as a disincentive for businesses to invest in the UK. The slight problem for Jeremy Hunt, though, is that his predecessor equally looked at that tax rate and decided to drop it down. And unfortunately, that didn't go very well for him or the Prime Minister at the time. So he's got a couple of important decisions coming up with pressures on both sides, really. He's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, unfortunately. So be interesting to see where we do land in the next few weeks. I've also pulled out a story which I particularly enjoy. So Google has recently wiped off £82 billion off of its share price, all due to its recent AI innovation advert. So Microsoft launched ChatGPT, which is a pretty intuitive AI program. You ask it questions, it will travel through the internet and respond with reasonably accurate answers. Google have tried the same, put together an advert demonstrating the program, and unfortunately in the advert, the AI gave the wrong answer. Google didn't realize it gave the wrong answer, put the advert out anyway, and of course then it got a bit of a backlash from people. It was something to do with one of the telescopes in the space, and who created it, so that the headline is, of course, an astronomical loss. Google's blunder.
I bet the papers had fun putting that heading together, actually.
Absolutely. I'm not going to lie. To be honest, I probably just picked it just for that. But it has wiped £82 billion off the share price for that one oversight and one error, which is yeah, I'm not that person responsible for that. And then the final story I picked out was one perhaps a little bit closer to my heart. So I'm a father of 4, and apparently, according to the recent census that we had, there are 5 million adult children living at home still with mum and dad in the UK, which is, and they define adults as between over 19 years old. So over 5 million young adults still living with their parents, which is the highest rate it's ever been. So as my wife and I have been planning their departure at 18 years old for quite a number of years, I think we might have to revisit that and perhaps plan on how we're going to house them for the near future.
Great bunch of stories. Yeah, our youngest daughter still lives at home as well. She's 23 and a teacher, pays a small amount of rent. I keep saying, let's put it up, let's put it up. But anyway, no, it's one of those funny things, isn't it? Because we don't love our kids, but when's the right time for them to leave home, really? But it's all about that cost of to leave home. Gary, have you got kids living at home?
I've got 3 kids, and one's just about still hanging on, but just completed on a house sale locally, so not long now.
Okay, what have you picked out for the papers, please?
Well, the world's gone mad, hasn't it? And, so thank you for encouraging me to read the papers. I'd like to say that in the first place. Don't always do that. I don't mean to be an ignoramus, but there's so much doom and gloom, and following on from Brexit and COVID and the Ukraine war and Turkey at the moment, which to me is just devastating, really. It's just so sad. We've been regular visitors over there, but yeah, so much doom and gloom. So I thought I would revert back to something that is also very important to me, which is rugby. Might not surprise you, or people that know me, rather than play on the misery that seems to be surrounding us, and have a little bit of a moan in the Times today. Sorry, I had to download, by the way, because I live in the sticks, and I just simply couldn't get the papers in time. But yeah, in the Times today, at least 5 bidders at £5 billion for Manchester United. That's a football thing. But leading on to the rugby story, which is just below it, and I find that Worcester Rugby Club is not going to be anymore, so it would appear, and they're going to name it Six Ways. So, and also be associated with another local club, which is causing absolute mayhem in our sport. This is leading on to something else. I just find it so very, very sad, very, very sad. And any opportunity I get to try and encourage Six Ways coming back and bring that local derby, then it's very important to this. To our local economy, especially in Gloucester. But so
what went wrong? Gary, what went wrong at the rugby club? Did it actually say?
What with Worcester?
Was it just financially wrong? Did it all go peak tong over COVID? Was it, did they overspend? What was it?
Culmination of all of those things, I would have thought. All of the clubs, well, the majority of the clubs do struggle to find a bottom line. Gloucester is my club, but I think that's the same for all of them. I think Gloucester's possibly done better than most, but yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe management, dare I say, I don't know. I couldn't really comment. I'm not close enough to that club, but sadly, it would appear, having read this article, that there's some manoeuvring, if I could put it that way, going on with the people that have bought whatever assets there were. And there would appear to be some manoeuvring that might mean that £5 to £8 million worth of debt is going to go unpaid, which involves the players, including the players. So I find that annoying and quite sad. But hopefully they will phoenix in some form or other, and they'll come back, along with Wasp, of course, as well. But yeah, the game, I think, is it's a difficult one to make a buck, if we could put it that way, but hopefully it will go on. Following on from that, in a more business sort of manner, how's my time doing?
You're running out, but keep going.
I picked up on the Steve Borthwick story, which is worth a read, also in the Times. And it was about our loss on Saturday, rattling through that. And just to emphasise a point, this is written by Stuart Barnes, I know a hell of a rugby player at his time and pundit. It goes on to talk about Steve Borthwick's philosophy and studying data. No offence, Adam, but where it comes on to is actually talking about the teams that are doing really, really well, Ireland in particular, and Italy as well. And they talk about the obsession with statistics, and it's commented that an overwhelming obsession with statistics is for the person without a deep understanding of the game, which ebbs and flows. With Ireland, what they're doing is playing what they see in front of them. And what my point is from a business sort of angle is, I think we can get obsessed with data. And at the end of the day, you've got to feel and play what's in front of you. So, you know, especially for small business, the world's changing so fast, industries are changing so fast. Play what's in front of you, and you will hopefully get there. But yeah, too much data. That's my point really, and sort of business advice, if you like, for people that get absolutely paranoid and hung up on it and obsessive. Don't do it. Play what's in front of you. None of us can see earthquakes coming and the like, you know, so you've got to play what's in front of you. And I've learned from experience that if you do pore over too many spreadsheets, sorry again, they're really important things and key, but play what's in front of you. And the data is very, very important. And those are the 3 articles I picked up on.
Okay, thanks ever so much for that, Gary. I'm sure we'll come back to the data in a moment. Anyway, Sarah, thanks ever so much for joining us today. What have you picked out from the papers?
First of all, I absolutely loved reading the papers. This is an amazing thing for me because I never normally pick it up. BBC News is my go-to and enter an everyday headline, if that makes sense. But it was really lovely to pick up some paper-based newspapers and have a good read. So my first one today is, and again, I've gone a little bit off piece, but you can't see me now, I'm all blurry. Yes. And I've gone all the way through to page 21 of the Times and found that happiness is apparently taking part in citizen science projects. Now, this to me sounds absolutely amazing because although citizen projects have been around for a while and people have been counting butterflies and bees, and especially when they grew all over COVID, if that makes sense, and we had a huge population of nature take over while everybody else is inside through COVID. They have actually found that citizen science projects do increase massively people's happiness. And if you take that break during the middle of the day to gather this valuable data, they boost your well-being of the volunteers. So, and I think that's a fantastic thing to be part of that project. Sit outside for 10 minutes during your working day, sit amongst nature, have a relax, count a few bees, you know, and submit your data to, I know, look at what you've got in front of you, rather than data. But yeah, I think that's fantastic.
I can imagine Gary saying to his 82 staff, "It's okay, guys, go and take 15 minutes to sit outside and watch the bees." I can imagine the conversation. So great stuff. I like to do
no comment,
by the way. What else have you got there, Sarah?
I have also got, now I am a hybrid car driver. So, and I adore my hybrid car. And I've had 2 now on the bounce. I wouldn't go back to full petrol car by any means. But up here, it did actually naively surprise me that tests have discovered the dirty secret of hybrid cars in terms of the FEVs. So FEVs, as you're probably aware, are a joint between actually plugging them in. They're effectively a plug-in hybrid, aren't they? And it did actually quite surprise me. I thought the whole push was towards electric cars and hybrid cars and everything, but apparently FEVs, yeah, we don't want those beyond 2030. So, and that was quite a shock for me, if I'm honest. But yeah, I wouldn't go back from my hybrid car by any means. As long as they retain hybrid and petrol cars, I'm in there definitely. But yeah, that was a real surprise to me, to be honest. And it probably shouldn't have been in terms of the electric prices, but it is.
What I love about that is the fact that you've got reading the papers, because a lot of the people that come on this show, and we've had over 270 people, by the way, don't read the papers on a regular basis. And so this is the first time that they might have picked it up. And there is this joy of the papers, I always find, because they go into a lot more detail and a lot more depth and feeling than you can get within the news, and the BBC and the World News also. They have a very narrow bandwidth of the news, and sometimes you think, are things still happening in India? What happened to that typhoon in South America they talked about last week? All those disasters still go on. It's just that the papers actually still carry the stories through, I think, and also they do an amazing wide breadth of other stories. I've just picked out a couple of ones before we go into any individual pieces. Furious MPs net 2,500 pay rise. Just very quickly, Gary, should they have a pay rise?
I love Mark Harper, and yes, he should definitely get a pay rise.
Okay, fair enough. Adam, should Mark Harper, the rest of our MPs, should say Mark Harper, but the rest of the MPs, should they get a pay rise?
I would love it if they were only able to have that pay rise once all the other pay disputes are resolved. So they should put it on hold until everyone else is sorted, and then they're allowed to have it. And maybe that might give them a bit of impetus to actually get on and get around the negotiation table and sort out all the other issues that we're having.
I totally agree with that. Sarah, I know you're going to have to sit the fence, so I'm not going to ask you. Anyway, but the other story that I picked out, which really brings me with great joy, by the way, because I'm a big kid at heart, is that to infinite sequels and beyond. This is the fact that Toy Story 5 is going to come out, and they're going to make Frozen 3. Good for me. Anyway, I love all this. So, oh, sorry. Last one. I've got to pick out this in the sun. Footy's worst hot dog. Hold on a second. I am going to get my screen out on so I can bring up the story. There we go. Footy's worst hot dog. Can you see that okay? We won't go into any more details on that, really. Anyway, it does look pretty disgusting and something I definitely wouldn't get my teeth into. Right. Adam, tell us all about Hazlewoods, please. Obviously, the banks on the front page of the I think it was the Daily Mail, you said, wasn't it, about tax breaks and things like this?
It was Daily Mail, yeah. Yeah, so obviously Hazlewoods, we spend most of our time advising and helping clients in terms of their day-to-day stuff, their tax compliance, but also looking into the future. And I think one of the things that is almost universal, and pretty much without exception for every client that we come across and meet right now, is there's obviously been a lot of volatility in prices. That seems to be settling a little bit, but there still seems to be a real shortage in the labor market in terms of skilled, semi-skilled, and even unskilled workers for many clients. It doesn't matter what sector they're in, what industry, it seems really difficult for them to plug that labor gap. And actually most businesses are restricted not by infrastructure or by the availability of raw materials, but actually the availability of people and labor. And it comes right down through just finding people in the first place, or when they find people, just not being able to have the right fit or the right, what they would perceive as ethic potentially, or just different expectations between the employer and the employee. And it's a real struggle for people. And Gloucestershire is not alone in that. Some of the statistics here in Gloucestershire are quite striking in terms of the number of vacancies and the number of job seekers. And there's a huge disparity. And it's real difficult for people and for businesses.
The big thing there, Adam, is it's right across every sector.
Absolutely, yeah. It's
everybody you talk to.
Yeah, and it's almost universal. And really, unless you've got a really small, close-knit team that's always been there and stuck together, it is pretty much felt everywhere. And we're seeing lots of really wonderful and creative ways of trying to incentivize, retain, and bring staff in, employees offering new different types of benefits, not always monetary. Sometimes they're offering, share schemes or, fruit on a Monday or whatever it is, all kinds of inventive and wonderful things, which in many ways is fantastic, that people are looking at the problem and saying, okay, well, what can we do? So it's not always monetary, and that's kind of an easy answer, just to throw money at the problem, but looking at different ways, some more successful than others. But it's still a problem right across the county.
Now, I'm going to quickly wrap your sort of segment up, if that's okay. But obviously, Hazlewoods and it's the budget coming up. Are you getting excited about it?
But, yes, very much so. Everyone of my sort of non-colleagues look at me like I'm some kind of crazed loon when I sort of countdown to budget day. But yes, it's always exciting here at Hazlewoods. Everything that we've been doing in the last 6 months can completely be obliterated in one short 20-minute session at the dispatch box. So it's very exciting for us. And then that then drives what we're going to be doing for the next sort of 6 months to a year from that. So so we never really know what could be said. Occasionally disappointing and nothing really changes. But it kind of, that's what gives us a job ultimately, because no one else wants to sit and pour through the detailed tax legislation. But luckily for us, they're happy to let us do it and pay us for the privilege. So.
Well, and Punchline will be covering it with Hazlewoods. We'll be doing a very own Punchline special on that day as well. So anyway, right, thanks ever so much for that, Adam. Excellent. Gary, let's just go over to you, please. Obviously, Glevum Windows has been going for a long time. Was it 1982 you set up the business?
1984. So we've got a big birthday coming up next year. So it'll be
Right,
40 years.
So
well,
just for a bit of context, that was before I was born.
Well, there you go. So all that time in business, Gary, has obviously taken its toll.
I'm
So-
copying it here.
What's the marketplace like at the moment? Because obviously the split between the two different sides. What's the building side like? Because that's 75% of your business. Is it slowing down? Is it still carrying on? Is it strong? What is the
I would call it steady. There's been a lot of press about some of the large builders redundancies and things like this. But no, I'd say it's steady. We're taking orders. There's a shortage of housing, and we seem to be going on quite strong on the new build side of things across the country. On the domestic side, it was a 40-mile radius of sort of Gloucestershire. That's coasting, not coasting. That's the wrong word. It's treading water. So there's nothing fantastic happening there just at the moment, but we'll get there. We're working on it.
On the Windows fronts, do you kind of, some industries, they change their products on a regular basis, but surely a window is a window is a window in some ways. Once you've got triple
How
glazed.
dare you? No, what I'm working on at the moment, which is a really big thing, and it would sort of go under the radar for most people. We work to something called U values, which is all about thermal efficiencies and what have you. So a typical U value in a household, and possibly even a tougher U value in a new build, because we're all working towards net zero, etc., and we're complying with building regulations. And up until recently, we would be working to 1.4, 1.5. That's the measure. Come next, got it here. Come June of 2025, we've got to somehow reduce that from what is currently the minimum of 1.2 to 0.8. That's a significant shift in thermal efficiency, and the net result of that's going to mean triple glazing as opposed to double. So you can imagine what that entails. It's an awful lot heavier, so it means a stronger window, stronger hinges. It's an extra pane of glass, so the cost will go up significantly for our customers, be it domestic householders or the new build. It's just the way it's going to be, and there is no option. There is no option, and we've got to start doing that now. And when you couple that to supply chain issues, which we've still not gotten over, the COVID, what that caused, and even Brexit is still a little bit flaky in some areas. So when you couple those three things together, windows are going to go up. And interestingly, as well on that point, and I could talk to you all day about windows, as you'll imagine, but interestingly, within those new building regulations, there's a new code called Code O, which is for overheating. So the encouragement has all been about saving heat and what have you, and these houses are becoming so efficient. There is now another level of which is aimed to contain, or not to contain, to control too much heat within a property. So we're damned if we do and damned if we don't, and that is going to lead to smaller windows, because nothing's more efficient than bricks and mortar. So it's kind of like there's some bad news, really. We're
And
going
I
to be
suppose-
encouraged to fit unattractive windows, or builders will, which won't look quite so nice. These things on these programs on TV with the big sliding doors and huge windows, panoramic views. That's going to change. Well, it could change.
Right.
And it's
Right,
going to
cool.
get more expensive. So, but we will get there.
Thanks, Gary.
Maybe what's in front of us, that's what we'll do.
Thanks ever so much for that, Gary. Sarah, it's been National Apprenticeship Week.
What a busy week.
I was going to say to you, so we've been tracking this all week. What does it mean for the college National Apprenticeship Week? Does it make a big difference?
National Apprenticeship Week is huge, both nationally and part of our college. So this week, especially for us, in January, we opened a brand new dedicated construction campus called SGS Horizon, which is within a mile from our Filton campus in Bristol. And it still supports a lot of the Gloucestershire area because we do an awful lot of provision there that actually can consume the Gloucestershire area as well, which is fantastic. It's basically to help. CITB launched a workforce statistics earlier on, well, the back end of last year, it was December, to suggest that there would needed to be 41,000 new trade jobs required by 2026 in the Southwest. So in order to help CITB with this major task of 41,000 new tradespeople, we believe that a big investment is to be done in construction. Construction is booming. It's come out of COVID with a bit of a passion. And we've had a massive uplift in roles, both from electrical perspective, plumbing and carpentry as well. Our carpentry division in Stroud has grown exponentially in the last 2 years, which is fantastic. National Apprenticeship Week this year is focusing on how we can individually develop this, and in turn, those skills and knowledge require a rewarding career, and also for businesses to develop a workforce that is talented and is built for the future, basically. We've currently got over 500 apprentices at South Gloucestershire Stroud College, and we expect to rise those quite considerably in the course of the next year, in terms of this September. Construction, like I said, has been our major growth. Business support and IT are slightly behind construction in terms of the actual recruitment. So although the job roles are available there, I think people are finding it very difficult to recruit into those roles. Especially from the young people, because I think they're deciding to stay in further education rather than tempt and risk a job in business support or IT currently with the climate that's happening. But like I said, construction is the next thing. Construction is booming.
Can I go back to the horizon, because I've seen some photographs of that. There's some bays there which might interest Gary as well on the building side of things, where they've made all these bays so people can, the students can build walls and do all that sort of stuff. It's a lot of bays, isn't it? How many is it?
Well, we've got a civils yard for bricklaying, we've got plastering and tiling, we've got painting and decorating, we've got electrical, we've got plumbing, we've got property maintenance, we've got carpentry bays in there as well. So,
and if I was a business watching this, Sarah, can I get down there to have a look at what the students are doing?
You can come down anytime you like. You're welcome whenever you like. We'll give you a tour of the campus. Yeah. Okay.
Not just me, but everybody.
Not just you, everybody can come. We don't mind. We've been inundated. It's been amazing. We've had a stakeholder and a discreet opening at the start of the week. We've had employer toolbox talks that have been really popular, and we've had 2 parents' evenings.
Okay, well, Sarah, I'd love to come down because I like wearing a hard hat. Anybody that knows me knows I like to dress up as a builder and be called Bob. Anyway, thank you ever so much for that. I'd just like to say we are running out of time, but we've still got time to pick out our story of the week on Punchline. So, Adam, what have you picked out, please?
So perhaps a little bit topical based on what we're doing, but Zoom. So maybe I'm alone in this, but before COVID, I'd never heard of Zoom. And then suddenly that's all I heard about during COVID. But recently this week, they've announced actually due to sort of a reduction, I guess, in usage with the pandemic ending, that they're actually going to have to lay off 1,300 staff, which is about 15% of their workforce. Their share price has plummeted, their usage has plummeted. Perhaps not surprising, as we are sort of getting back into the office environment, and people are using it less virtually. Obviously, we're still using it today, but it's kind of gone from utter obscurity to kind of peak, and then it's starting to decline, which perhaps in some ways is good because return of the workforce, return of people back into the offices, back into the high street. But for Zoom and for its employees, at least it's causing a bit of short-term pain.
No, it was a story that definitely resonated with myself as well. Gary, what have you picked out from this week's Punchline, please? We've only got a minute, sir.
Yeah, okay. So the Gloucestershire mobile speed camera locations, which you published, which is fantastic, apart from the fact that you published them on the 7th, and I drove to Twickenham on the 4th, and as listed here, caught another ticket at Nettleton Bottom. Only
Well,
9 miles an hour, I would add, more than the 40. But my message to you is, can you please do these a little bit earlier, just to give me a heads up? Would that be okay?
Well, I'd love to, but we're in the mercy of the police when they post it up, would you believe? But
Yes.
there's a message there to slow down, Mr. Jones.
I keep getting told off for driving too slow by my wife and my children, and now I'm going to have to drive even slower. And I'm
There you go.
blaming you.
Well, you blame away. You blame away. Thanks ever so much for that. They are very popular. Those speeds camera stories, as you can imagine. Sarah, what have you picked out from this week's Punchline, please?
Unsurprisingly, I have picked out 2 amazing training providers that have joined together, taken over the Happy Turtles nursery site that used to be, and are going to be opening a new construction site from September 2023. I love it because I think training providers working together for the good of the nation is fantastic.
No, great story as well. My story of the week actually is I've got to fly our own flag is our campaign for apprentices, which has been rolling on, where I've had the opportunity to interview at least 12 or 15 different apprentices from right across the board, and it's just been a wonderful journey to do that and talk to everybody, and I hope people get a chance to get the opportunity to watch those as well. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks ever so much for joining Punchline Talks. We've run out of time. I would like to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazlewoods Accountants and Business Advisors, my brilliant panel. Great to see you guys, and I hope you join us again very soon. If you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next week. And just for interest, really, this week is my 100th show. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.